How did a word about your trousers become a swear word? And why is it that swearing is more like barking than talking? Swearing is a weird language all of its own. It's full of hidden rules, secret codes, and amazing stories, actually. And in this video, I'll show you the craziest moments in the history of swearing.
Well, this is gonna hurt like a mother.
You will even learn what science says about swearing and your brain. So it usually comes down to this. When you break the rules, that's where you get the swear words, right? And if you're looking for rules to break, ancient Rome, well, that was the place to go. I bet you've seen the gladiator movies, but have you seen the graffiti? Yeah, that's right. Romans, well, they graffitied everything. Stairwells, toilets, temples, which is how we know that they were absolute potty mouths. The thing is, Roman swearing wasn't just rude, it was personal. They were obsessed with one thing. What does it mean to be a man? And the best kind of man you could be was a vir. That's where we got the word virtue. And it doesn't sound exactly the same, but follow the letters. It's Latin, because Romans obviously spoke Latin. So naturally, angry Romans got creative with words that cancelled out a man's masculinity. And then there were the gods. Romans loved dragging their entire pantheon into it. You know those Roman and Greek gods?
You could always say when in Rome and swear by Jove, by Juno, by Apollo, by Castor, by Hercules, by Venus' hand, by Mars' altar, or by Pluto in hell.
Swearing by Jupiter or Hercules was pretty serious business. So to avoid getting struck by lightning, you could always steal a trick from the Greeks, which is to swap out the names of the gods for something else that sounded alike, like famous painters. Mind you, those Greeks would swear by anything, by the dog, by the goose. The really interesting part is, even though none of those vulgar Latin words ended up in English, we've been using some of the same insults for 2,000 years. But what about vulgar words that did make it into English? For that, let's meet some hairy men with axes. No, I'm not talking about me. Absolutely no filter.
Jon, silkefudi, guttorm, fudslek.
Yeah, the Vikings spoke Old Norse, a language so spicy that some of its words could get you killed. And English soaked up a shipload of it. Die, hell, slaughter, rotten cake. Okay, maybe not cake, but they also had some of the weirdest insults that I've ever heard, like, may your toes rot and fall off in your shoes. Or my personal favorite, little dung beard. I mean, who argues with a burn like that? They were big on something called fleeting, which is basically rap battles minus the bass line, and the more vulgar and outrageous, the better.
Two opponents would go back and forth trading rhyme slander in front of a crowd. And yes, it could get vicious.
But the worst thing you could be called was unmanly or cowardly. They were the nastiest reputation-ending words. If someone called you that, you had to challenge them to a duel. It was the law, and if you backed down, well, that kind of proved their point. And we all know how this ends. It was reputation warfare. Could it get any worse? Actually, yes, but before we go there, here's a problem that you might face in the here and now, in the modern age. If you're learning a language, how are you supposed to know which words are good and bad? Because these words don't exactly come with warning signs, do they? Native speakers, well, they say all kinds of things which you probably shouldn't say to your mother-in-law. A language like Japanese is even harder because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So how do you learn what words are right and which words are wrong, or which words you should and shouldn't say? The way to do this is to start by listening to the language a lot, because the more you listen, the more you will get a feel for which words are kind of commonly used in different situations. A lot of listening equals you knowing what you are doing. And the easiest way to do this is to watch a lot of movies and TV shows. And there is a way that I can help you here, because I've pulled together all of my favorite TV shows and movies in different languages. And these are all the shows that I have tested out myself and watched myself in different languages. They are easy to follow. They are full of the kind of phrases that you actually need to know in real life to learn a language, including the cheeky bits that they don't teach you on your courses. And this list here is basically your compiled version of all the TV shows and movies that you should watch if you're looking for something to improve your listening in your new language. It's completely free. You can scan the QR code with your phone, or you can hit the link in the description. That'll take you to a page where you can download this TV guide completely free. I'm not usually a fan of recommending a lot of TV and movies, but for language learning, there is nothing better. So go and grab that free today. Now, ready to see how swearing could get you out of jail in the Middle Ages?
Splud, slid, zoons. Invoking the deity's name, swearing by something sacred, or cursing someone were supposed to have real effects in the real world.
Back in medieval times, they loved their oaths so much that if you ended up in court, you could literally swear that you were innocent. And if you said it just right, well, you could walk free. What? That's right, let me explain. So swearing in medieval England wasn't about being rude, it was about taking oaths and then breaking them. People swore by sacred things, so by God's bones, by God's nails. But you'd better be telling the truth, because saying those words was like invoking the crucifixion, and that could damn your soul.
Damn you, or go to hell, unless you really wanted someone to go to hell, like literally.
That's why they called it vain swearing, and it was dangerous. Say you were gambling in the Middle Ages and you lost, you might yell, by God's bones, and that was the worst thing you could say. They could burn out your tongue if they felt like it. So in a court trial, swearing you were a good person actually counted for something, and you could get off the hook. Meanwhile, in France, people were swearing without technically swearing. They would say things like sacré bleu, holy blue, to avoid saying Dieu, or God, which French people don't even say anymore, but Disney apparently does.
Sacre bleu, what is this?
And the Italians, well, they had a workaround too, swearing by the god of wine. Of course they did, the Italians. How great. But if you really wanted to offend someone in the 16th century, you could just copy the Grandmaster Shakespeare. He used to make up his own swearing. A pox on you, sir. By the way, if it ever feels like swearing spikes your heart rate, well, I will show you what science has to say about that later. And yes, that dog thing that I mentioned earlier is coming too. Once in merry old England, that's it, where I live, right here, some favourite picnic spots had names that would make a sailor blush. But let me not jump ahead. You remember the Renaissance, right? Everyone suddenly got obsessed with art and science. Less fear of the old man in the sky, way more interest in bodies. So naturally, swearing changed too. No more long Shakespearean curses. Now it was all about one-word bombs like bloody, that's a Renaissance word, along with a whole list of others pulled straight out of medieval anatomy books, but we can't say that anymore. Even people's surnames and addresses joined in. It was a bit like the Wild West. A monk once scrawled a bad word on a manuscript he was reading. I think maybe he was angry with someone. You're looking at the wrong word, by the way. It's not that one. The naughty bit is the D. It's D for damned. Do you see that now? Come on, he couldn't write the whole thing out. He was a monk, after all. Later, someone found an even older F word in a Scottish poem from the 1400s. It's half English, half Latin, and the swearing is all in code. Can I read it? Well, maybe. Will I show you? Absolutely not. And then one day, all the bad words, well, they vanished. Welcome to the Victorian era, the age of euphemism. Everything was taboo. Suddenly, roast chicken did not have a breast. It had a second wing. And I'm not even kidding. You couldn't even say leg or trouser. Instead, you had to call them inexpressibles, indescribables, unmentionables, unhintables. The list goes on. Wait, continuation. Yep. In polite company, even a piano had limbs, not legs. Kissing? Not a chance. But in private, people were swearing basically the same way that they are now. They just weren't writing it down. And the hilarious thing is, while polite people were busy clutching at their pearls, the boys at Cambridge University were secretly keeping a record. They made a full-on dictionary of curse words, and it was a runaway success. It's basically a guide to swearing in front of your dad without getting caught. Naturally, someone responded with a guide to behaving properly, which of course is my favourite, and balance was restored. Wait, you haven't even heard the truly insane part, because in 1694, England passed the Profane Swearing Act, which was basically a tax on your mouth. The money all went to poor people, and if you were under 16 and couldn't pay up, well, you got whipped. By the way, if you're wondering which language has the worst swearing these days, I've got some pretty stiff competition coming up. But first, in your great-grandma's time, a new kind of swear was brewing. You might know the 1930s movie Gone with the Wind. They had to pay a huge fine, $5,000, for letting Clark Gable say the word damn.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
So utterly scandalous, I'm sure you'd agree. But people still needed a way to let off steam, so they got creative. Gosh, gee, golly, cripes. And if any of those offend you, well, brace yourself, because I haven't even said bejabbers yet. Oops. So how did we finally get to swear for real, out loud, and on screen? Well, you can thank the troops in World War I and II.
What the blazes? Those dadgum crowds are advancing towards our dad-blasted lines.
Nope, wrong. Soldiers weren't exactly whispering golly in the trenches, and when war reporters filed their stories, they didn't clean it up either.
If you think soldiers weren't cussing up a storm on the front lines, you're
Crazy.
So swearing slipped into newspapers, and from there, well, it went viral. And as for TV, well, I don't know who swore first, but in the 1970s, Philly Mayor Frank Rizzo made hilarious history.
You're a crumb creep. And I wouldn't take that off of nobody. And there's 3 of you and I'm by myself. And when it's over, there'll be nothing to it. Win or lose, okay? But you don't have the courage. You're a real crumb bum.
Would a mayor get away with that now? No idea, but let's check in with your brain and a bit of freaky science.
Lalocizia. Scientists think that this relief is one reason why we've evolved to curse in the first place. Because it's a way for us to express strong emotions like anger and frustration without having to throw a punch or act out.
This is nuts. In your brain, swearing doesn't just sound different, it comes from somewhere different. Okay, you know how your brain has 2 parts, right? Left and right. Well, most of your language lives up in the cerebral cortex. That's the thinking, logical part on the left. But swearing comes from the limbic system, the emotional part on the right. So it isn't even tied to logic at all. It's tied to your survival instinct, your fight or flight response. That's why if you stub your toe and yell a bad word, you can't help it. It's primal. Your brain just fires it out and adrenaline dulls the pain. But that's not even the weirdest part. Some scientists think that swearing is closer to a bark than speaking a sentence. I kid you not, my friend. Swearing is like barking, like a dog. And if you're a cat person, maybe you're more of a raging hisser, I don't know. There's a famous study done with a bucket of ice water.
Participants were asked to hold their hands in buckets of ice water for as long as they could, once while repeating a swear word and once with the neutral word. No matter what order they went in, swearing increased the average amount of time they could withstand the pain by 50%.
That's right, and fake swears like fudge, well, they don't work because now you're back in the left brain. Okay, I won't keep you waiting anymore. Which modern language does it best?
Alter Bimmel, Arsch, lecker Fotzen, alte geile Sau.
Pretty sure that's not the worst words, but let's choose a winner. Well, in Indonesia, it's really bad to call someone a dog, but if you say very dog, well, you've just gone full beast mode. Meanwhile, German swearing's got a whole hybrid animal kingdom like pig dog. Yikes.
Verdammt.
In India, well, it's nuclear there. One swear can insult your entire bloodline, your mother, your sister, and 3 generations of ancestors. So if someone says MC or BC, you better run. And Afrikaans? They've got this one iconic insult that's so bad, it's become funny, practically a national treasure, and they will definitely try to make you say it.
Yo massa.
Yo massa.
Yo massa.
Yo massa.
As for the UAE, I think you know where this is going. Well, swearing is illegal, and even text swearing with an emoji can get you fined or deported. But the crown, well, that has to go to Russia, hands down. They invented a whole shadow language called mutt that's so radioactive the government banned it from TV, books, even concerts. But Russians will tell you, until you can curse with mutt, you're just a tourist. But forget swearing. Some languages have bugs in their actual grammar, and it's really quite hilarious. I made a video about 9 of the weirdest ones, and you can watch it right now if you want a really serious laugh. Go on, it's a good one.